I want to jump to our first speaker. As we know, scientists cannot currently say exactly what will happen. We have projections, but we don't know 100% for sure what happens when. And here today to talk about how societies form and how we can establish ourselves, specifically considering citizen participatory engagement, to move forward on specific goals that we set. Here today, as the founder of Deutschland vorrüstet auf and head of policy at GermanZero, I want you to welcome Gesa Müller-Schulz.
I think there's another quote. I didn't want to start with that one, but I'm not sure it's the same guy, but someone else said before, the problem with climate crisis is that we all think someone else will take care of it. And I think that is something I hope we can keep in mind while listening or while speaking to me. I think by now everyone has or does know about climate crisis and that we are in the middle of a climate crisis. And some might even say climate catastrophe. I myself consider it a catastrophe of biblical proportions, and I will come back to that. But my main argument today is that it is necessary to radically accept that this is what we are in the middle of, climate catastrophe. Because the problem is not necessarily the crisis itself. The problem is we do not act as if we were experiencing one. We continue to live as if this is normal. In fact, we have known about the climate crisis for at least 30 to 40 years. We know that a certain amount of CO2 particles in the atmosphere has had a warming effect on our planet for more than 100 years. We know this. Scientists have proven many times that the current rise in global temperature is due to both the use of fossil fuel and the destruction of natural CO2 storage, like wetlands, forest, soil, and the ocean. So my question today is, what does it mean for our democracy? We know this, but are we acting accordingly? To act in and as a democracy, we always need a majority. In Germany and many other nations we agreed many times to do something about our pollution of the atmosphere, most notably in Kyoto in 1997 and later in Paris in 2015. I want you to remember what we agreed on in 2015. So in 2015, the agreement in Paris had one goal. Its goal is to limit global warming to well below 2, preferably 1.5 degrees Celsius. So this doesn't sound too much, does it? It's nice to lay in the sun with 35 degrees, 30 degrees. It's really nice, isn't it? But we're not talking about that kind of warming. We're talking more or less about, think about you having a baby, okay? If it's like 39 degrees, 40 degrees, it has a high temperature, okay? It's still alive, very high temperature. You may want to go to the hospital, okay? But 1.5 more degrees, 2 degrees more is 41. The kid is dead by that. That's the kind of temperature difference we are talking about right now. We're not talking about a sunny day in the summer or some sunny days in the winter. We're talking about what it means to have a global warming, a body warming, so to speak, of a baby that is already on a high temperature, has a fever, and now we're going 1-2 degrees higher. That's what we're talking about. Its goal in Paris is to limit global warming once again to well below 2, preferably to 1.5 degrees Celsius, compared to pre-industrial levels. Implementation of the Paris Agreement requires an economic and social transformation, a transformation of our society, based on the best available science. So not only on science, but you want to take everyone with you. okay? You don't want to leave people behind because we all want to live on this planet and we all deserve to live on this planet. However, a global warming of even 1.5 degrees will still result in large-scale drought, famine, heat stress, species die off, loss of entire ecosystems, and loss of habitable land, throwing more than 100 million people into poverty. A 2-degree warmer world represents what scientists characterize as a profoundly disrupted climate with fiercer storms, higher seas, animal and plant extinctions, melting ice, and more people dying from heat, especially sick people, babies, smog, and infectious disease, as we have seen over the last 2 years. But the outcome of the policies we see right now here in Germany doesn't have a mitigating impact on the crisis. And I'm here to speak to ACT. I'm here as a citizen of this country, and I'm here today to speak to you as citizens of a democracy, to all of you. The Paris Agreement is signed by our parliament, and it is not acted on because much of the political discussion about climate crisis is sidetracked, and you all have read about it. It is framed in terms of feasibility versus necessity. It is about individual freedom versus collective responsibility, or about long-term environmental benefits versus short-term economic interests. I work for GermanZero. In our organization, a few full-time employees, financially supported by people who believe in our ideas, started to look at the Paris Agreement and compared it to the status quo laws in Germany. Together with in total over 1,000 volunteers and special consultants and experts, we looked at all sectors and identified possibilities to stop emitting CO2 in Germany, as well as to store it in natural sinks again, like wetlands, forests, and so on, the soil. And so we rewrote the German law across all sectors to be consistent with the Paris Agreement. We just did it. We can do something meaningful. All of us can make a decision right now to be part of those people who stand up and say, it is important that we look what's coming in the eye. And we can do this without any fear because we live in a democracy. But this time, we need not to stand by. We don't need to stand by and just watch. We see it happen again, but we are not helpless. We have the tools to stop the worst from happening. Thanks to science, we know exactly why all this happens and will continue to happen. And thanks to experts, we know how to change our rules or laws in order to act accordingly. This time, we have the chance not only to survive and live with the results, not to accept the brutality natural forces can have on our life. We have the option to change the impacts with which they hit our lives. But, as I said before, this is my argument. We have to radically accept that this is happening to us right now. It is not fair it is happening to us. It is not fair it is happening to our generation, but it is what it is. And we can change the plot of our story. We can stop talking and we can start acting because we live in a democracy. We can make the radical decision to change the normal we live in. And let's start right now. Let's start to rewrite German laws and by it our story, our normal. And maybe in generations to come, there will be a story about how we all radically accepted scientific facts and dare to change the story of humankind. At GermanZero, we work for a world in which future generations can live a good life. In concrete terms, this means limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees. To achieve this, Germany must become climate neutral by 2035. In order to create more awareness and understanding for this goal, we are working with Modulr.Design to develop a digital tool that makes it easier for journalists and policymakers to research and prepare scientifically based information on the topic of climate policy in all sectors. The tool is based on an overview of climate policy measures for areas such as industry, transport, agriculture, from extensive research and studies. Currently, we are in the test phase in which we let journalists test our concept in form of a prototype, which you can see right now here. We have one thing to ask you. We need your help to realize it. We need our first version of the knowledge tool and to start development by the earliest next year. And then in summer 2023, we want to release the first product with the most important basic features. Yeah, that's what we want to do. But we need you to donate for us, to support our idea. And it is because of what I just said. It is happening. It will happen if we ignore it or not. Doesn't matter. But let's try to do and make the best of it. Thanks for your help.
One more time, the QR code is there for funding this project. You'll also find some more information about it here on the wall. And aside from that, aside from donations for funding, we would like also to request even feedback on the prototype itself. So there's other, what's the word? Words, brain, work. QR codes that you'll find. They're specific to the actual product itself and the prototype. And getting feedback from all of you would also be helpful there. So,
if I may say
yes.
One more thing. What we found has the most impact on climate change, at least on the discussion, is to talk about it. Like to actually talk about the impacts. And I think this will help journalists to make better decisions when writing an article. I think it will help them to question ministers when they release new policies. And I think it can make a huge difference in how we discuss the topic, that people actually know what we talk about. It's not a crisis that is happening sometimes in the future, but to accept it's happening right now. And yeah, we cannot do more than accept it. And when we do that, we might accept also the transformation process that lays ahead of us. And as you have seen in the video, it doesn't mean it gets worse. It probably means it gets a lot more greener in the cities and a lot more diverse outside of Hamburg and Berlin in the landscape. I think a lot of things can change actually for the better. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'm here.
Thank you, Gesa. Very nice. Thank you so much. I'm going to jump right into our next speaker. So having worked with international design agencies